Hello, and welcome back to another episode of the Smile Code podcast. I'm Dr. AC Quadu, your host. Today, I'm inviting you on a special journey with me, one that reaches beyond personal happiness, reaches beyond individual goals, and taps into something even deeper. In this episode, we're exploring how our pursuit of happiness, both as individuals and as a society, can find its greatest power when we step beyond ourselves and prioritize the common good. This episode comes on the cusp of a critical presidential election in the United States, and many of us are feeling a swirl of emotions: hope, worry, determination, maybe even a bit of fear. But instead of diving into political debates, I want us to reflect on something timeless, something that goes beyond party lines and policies. I want us to ask ourselves, how can we as individuals contribute to a happier, more united community, a more united country, and a more united world? Now, this isn't just about personal happiness. This is about choosing to act in ways that uplift others, ways that can make a profound difference, even when it's challenging. We're surrounded by a world that often pulls us in the direction of me first. But today, I want to invite us all to look beyond ourselves and consider, what can we do to make life better, not just for us, but for others too? So to illustrate this, we'll explore two powerful stories. These are stories of courage and selflessness. Stories that remind us of the immense strength of shared humanity, of what's possible when we put the common good above all else. The first story takes us to a subway station in New York City in 2007, where a man named Wesley Autry, 51 years old, was waiting for his train with his two young daughters. Out of nowhere, he saw another man, a stranger, named Cameron Holopeter, fall onto the tracks after suffering a seizure. And at that moment, Wesley made an extraordinary choice. Without thinking twice, he jumped onto the tracks and pinned Cameron's body between the rails, pressing him down as the subway train rushed over them, just inches above. Now think about that for a moment. Wesley Autry, an African-American man, risked his own life to save the life of Cameron Holopeter, a white man he had never met. In an instant, Wesley became a hero, not because he sought to, but because he chose to look beyond himself and act out of sheer compassion and humanity. Wesley didn't see race. He didn't see differences. He saw a human being in need. And in that split second, he showed us all what true selflessness looks like. Our second story goes back to a moment that reshaped our world: the events of September 11, 2001. In the aftermath of the attacks, something remarkable happened. People from all walks of life, across cities, across countries, across cultures, came together in a powerful display of solidarity and shared humanity. We saw first responders, civilians, and volunteers work tirelessly, sacrificing sleep, comfort, and even safety to help strangers in need. People lined up to donate blood. Communities rallied to support families, and nations around the world held vigils and sent messages of support. For a moment, our divisions faded, and we saw ourselves simply as humans, united by grief, hope, and resilience. The 9/11 attacks, as devastating as they were, reminded us of a profound truth, that we're all connected. And when we choose unity over division, selflessness over selfishness, we build a world rooted in peace, in strength, and yes, happiness. So, as we stand on the edge of a significant moment for our country, Wesley Autry and the people who united after 9/11 didn't ask what was best for themselves. They asked what was best for others. And in doing so, they made choices that brought comfort, that brought hope, and even life itself. Thank you for being here today. Let's explore together what it truly means to put the common good first. After all, the old saying goes, a journey of 1,000 miles begins with a single step. Now, I want you to picture yourself standing on a crowded subway platform in New York City. The noise, the rush, the people. It's a familiar scene for anyone who's ever taken the subway. You're surrounded by strangers, people you've never met and perhaps never will. But that's the beauty of a city like New York. All these lives intersect in moments we barely notice. In January of 2007, Wesley Autry, 51 years old, found himself in one of those moments. He was waiting for his train with his 2 young daughters, a typical day in the life of this construction worker and Navy veteran. But within seconds, that ordinary moment was about to transform into something unforgettable. As he waited, Wesley saw another man, a stranger named Cameron Holopeter, collapse and fall onto the tracks. Cameron, just 20 years old, had suffered a seizure, and his body had tumbled helplessly onto the rails. And then, almost as if time stood still, Wesley realized what was happening. The platform was filled with people watching in horror, and a train was approaching. Now, what would you do in that moment? There's a part of each of us that would want to help, but fear can be paralyzing. And yet, without hesitation, Wesley did something remarkable. He handed his daughters to a stranger, told them to stay put, and he jumped down onto the tracks. With barely a moment to spare, Wesley positioned himself over Cameron's body, pressing him down between the rails. He held him tightly in a very narrow space, not more than 21 inches. He held him tightly as the train barreled forward. Witnesses say it was a matter of seconds, maybe even milliseconds. The train passed over them, the cars racing by just inches above, the noise deafening. And when it was over, Wesley and Cameron lay unharmed in that tiny space, right between the rails. The people who saw this happen, stunned by the horrific incident, burst into spontaneous applause when Wesley yelled out that they were okay. When Wesley emerged, he wasn't looking for praise. He wasn't seeking recognition. In fact, his first words to the bystanders were to make sure his daughters were safe, reassuring them that everything was okay. This man, a father, a construction worker, an ordinary New Yorker, had made a choice that very few people could make in a moment like that. He risked his life to save a complete stranger, someone he had never met before and might never see again. And perhaps what makes Wesley's story even more powerful is that it transcended differences. Wesley, an African-American man, risked his life for Cameron, a young white man. In that moment, it didn't matter who they were, where they came from, or what they believed. All that mattered was shared humanity, a decision made out of compassion, out of selflessness, and a deeply ingrained sense of what is right. Wesley's story reminds us that courage and compassion don't recognize differences. In moments of crisis, our instinct to help can be stronger than any division. This is what it means to choose the common good, to see others not as strangers, but as fellow human beings. Wesley didn't calculate the risks or weigh the consequences. He simply acted, and in doing so, he showed us all what it means to be truly selfless. So as we reflect on Wesley's story, I invite each of us to think about the ways we too can bring a little more selflessness into our lives. Perhaps we'll never face a life or death situation on a subway track, but we all have chances every day to make choices that uplift others, to prioritize compassion over convenience. Choosing the common good doesn't have to mean grand gestures or risking our lives. So as we've heard today, there's incredible power in choosing the common good, in prioritizing others, and in looking beyond ourselves. Wesley Autry, the subway hero, and the collective response to 9/11 remind us that shared humanity is the foundation of peace, resilience, and even happiness. But how do we bring this spirit into our daily lives? And perhaps just as importantly, how can we carry this spirit with us as we approach the election? Choosing the common good doesn't have to mean grand gestures or risking our lives. In fact, some of the most impactful actions we can take are small, everyday decisions that show kindness, show respect, and show empathy. So here are a few ways to start. Practice empathy daily. Empathy is the ability to see the world through someone else's eyes. Empathy is one of the simplest yet most powerful ways to strengthen our connection to others. Take a moment every day to try to understand what someone else is going through, whether it's a family member, a co-worker, or even a stranger you pass on the street. Empathy doesn't mean we'll always agree, but it opens us to understanding and reminds us that every person has a story, a struggle, a hope. Secondly, let's reach out to help. Small acts of kindness are ripple makers. A helping hand, a comforting word, or even just offering your time can make a huge difference in someone's day. And when you do this, you're not just helping someone else, you're creating a sense of connection and unity that is very contagious. These acts remind us that we're all in this together, that no one is truly alone. Thirdly, we all know that discussions, especially those discussions we have on politics, can be very heated. But as we approach the election, I encourage each of us to engage in conversations from a place of respect. We don't have to agree on everything to treat each other with dignity. Instead of focusing on what divides us, let's focus on finding common ground. Our country is stronger and our communities are better when we choose civil dialogue over divisive rhetoric. Now, with the election approaching, each of us has an incredible opportunity to exercise a choice that impacts the common good. Voting is a powerful act, one that goes beyond our individual needs to consider the kind of future we want for our families, our communities, and the generations to come. Here are some things to keep in mind as we head to the polls. First, vote with compassion. As you prepare to cast your vote, think about who your choices benefit. Consider the policies and leaders that align not only with your values, but with a commitment to creating a better, fairer world for all. Ask yourself, how does my vote contribute to the well-being of my community, especially those who are vulnerable? A vote rooted in compassion is a powerful step towards unity. And think long-term. It's easy to get caught up in immediate issues or what benefits us in the short term. But when we focus on the common good, we take a broader, longer view. We think about education, about healthcare, about the environment, about justice, all issues that affect not just us today, but our children and grandchildren tomorrow. When we vote with the future in mind, we build a legacy of hope, opportunity, and sustainability. In a time when divisive language can be louder than ever, we each have the power to stand for unity. Let's reject fear-based or divisive rhetoric and instead look to the leaders who promote respect, inclusivity, and progress for everyone. Voting for unity is an act of selflessness because it's about lifting all of us up, not just a few. Choosing the common good isn't just about big choices. It's in the small, everyday decisions we make to uplift others, to practice empathy, to stay connected. The stories we share today, from Wesley Autry's courage to the solidarity that emerged, show us what's possible when we put others first, when we look beyond ourselves, and when we let compassion and kindness guide our actions. So as you head into your day, your week, and yes, the voting booth, remember this. Each choice we make, each small act of kindness is a step towards building a better world. Together, let's carry forward the spirit of unity and shared humanity, choosing the common good not only for our own happiness, but for the future where everyone can thrive. Our two stories serve as a powerful call for each of us. They show us that in times of crises, in moments of choice, the path of selflessness is not only possible, it's transformative. And this transformation doesn't just end with the people directly involved. It expands outward, touching countless lives, creating a ripple effect of kindness, of courage, of unity. So as we leave today's episode, let's carry forward the spirit of these stories. Let's look for ways to be there for each other, to make selfless choices, and to keep our shared humanity at the heart of everything we do. Whether it's through a small act of kindness, a compassionate conversation, or a choice to vote for the common good, Each step we take brings us closer to a more peaceful, united world. I'm Esikwedu, and I'd like to thank you for joining me today on the Smile Code. Let's go forward together, remembering that each of us has the power to contribute to a better future, one selfless act at a time. And as always, remember to keep smiling. See you soon.